Hello and welcome. Another edition of Thursday Coaches Corner. Every Thursday evening, I'm fortunate to be able to speak with college coaches, and we talk about all topics related to college baseball, college conferences, and so forth. And today, very excited to move west over the Rockies and into the West Coast. Mountain West Baseball, University of Nevada, Wolfpack Baseball, particularly, and head coach. And coach, I really, Jake, I really want to preface this by saying I'm excited because I just spent a week in Nevada. But Jake McKinley, coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
It's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
A lot of parents, a lot of families, a lot of athletes now, especially in today's world of settlement excitement, we don't talk a lot about those schools in the Mountain West, or I refuse to call them the MMs, the mid majors. I think college baseball now, there's too much parity to do that. But West Coast baseball, what makes the Wolfpack style of baseball or the Mountain West brand of baseball unique and different than other parts of the country?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. So I'll start particularly with our program. I think we have a really dynamic location in the country. We're 30 minutes away from Lake Tahoe. Reno, Nevada is viewed as the biggest little city in the world. That's our slogan. And I have found that to be very true since living here. Like anything you would ever need in a big city is very accessible, but it doesn't take you an hour and a half to get across town like it does in some bigger cities. So it is a community here in Northern Nevada that is very invested in the Wolfpack. There are really no pro sports around, so we're kind of the pro sport in town. So we have a very passionate and invested fan base. We have tremendous community support. Our athletes are treated great by the community. So I just think that the University of Nevada is a very special place. I think nationally it's kind of a well-kept secret, which we hope to expose, obviously. And then I think in the Mountain West, we go to some really cool places. We go to the Air Force Academy over in Colorado Springs, which is a great experience for our kids. We are adding Hawaii to our conference, which will be a great trip for our kids as well. UC Davis is coming in, Grand Canyon is coming in, but currently, we have San Diego State in our conference. Fresno State. So the brand of baseball is good. The conference, for the most part, it's a little bit more offensive because some of these schools are in altitude. We're one of them. We're about 5,000 feet. Air Force, I believe, is about 7,000 feet. Albuquerque, New Mexico, high altitude. So the conference does play a little more hitter friendly. So we've got to be just dynamic in our approach of how we recruit pitching. But also, we do prefer to have players offensively that can do damage. So it's a fun brand of baseball. It's a good brand of baseball. I think when you look across the last few years, teams in the Mountain West have fared very well against some of, I guess you would call them like the Goliaths of college baseball. It seems to be very standard that our conference will, quote unquote, upset some of those schools throughout the year. So I think it's a very underrated brand of baseball across the industry.
One of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we were able to chat is I really believe moving forward, after we get through the April 7th and the opt-in, opt-out and all that jazz, I think there's going to be a higher level of college baseball collectively spread across the country. And obviously Nevada is a very appealing part of the country from a climate perspective, and obviously the schedule, as you just alluded to. But talk a little bit about, you have a unique approach. Unlike the vast majority of programs that are looking to plug and play student athletes, you're really looking to develop and foster relationships as part of your development process as a program. Can you talk a little bit about that and your approach to recruiting the high school athlete?
Yeah. So, when I got to Nevada, there was a coaching change. Obviously, like any coaching change, there was no head coach in place for 10 days. And when that happens in Division I baseball now, the players on your roster that are deemed to be really good players, they're going to essentially get poached by other schools because they're in the portal. It's legal. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is the reality of the situation. So we had to fill the roster expeditiously, and we played some freshmen that year. And right now we're in a position where we're kind of an older team, but we're an older team because a lot of those players that were here since day one are now juniors and seniors. So I have found in going through that process that just for me as a human being, it's more fulfilling in my job to build relationships with players and to see their projections sort of get met. So right now in college baseball, and I get it, it's you're right, it's very plug and play. I think a lot of programs are building their teams out of the portal. They have financial means to do so, and I'm not here to say that that's wrong, but it's just for me as a human, I enjoy the process of building a relationship with a player, having a player in the program for 3 to 4 years. And I see some of our guys that are juniors and seniors now that when I saw them, the physicality, they were so far away and they've become these self created people that have turned themselves into professional prospects. So to be along for that journey gives me more fulfillment as a person. I think I speak for my staff when I say that. And I also think, too, we're trying to build a sustainable winner, a program that is basically predictably good every year and doesn't have the ups and downs. And I think the portal can create that, because I think if you get a couple players that maybe you overvalued, maybe it's not a cultural fit, I think that can sort of bring your team down. So I think for us, as we approach a high school player, occasionally junior college players, I think we can be more selective as it relates to the fit inside of the locker room. So I guess for me, it's more so about, maybe selfishly, it's my fulfillment in the job. I appreciate that opportunity to spend 3 to 4 years with a player and see them grow, and to feel like our staff had a piece of that journey. Really is kind of turned into one of my whys as to why I do this.
And I think that is very refreshing. That used to be my mindset, years ago as a coach, is I always used to, upon graduation, pull out the photo from my drawer of the young freshman that is now about to graduate. And the physical difference was just always just eye opening.
Yeah.
And so one of the parts of that I want to ask you about, has it now become almost your recruiting grounds, or your recruiting area has now expanded, because now you have West Coast schools moving east from a conference perspective, vice versa? You have a lot of travel, east to west. Does this open up your recruiting areas, and now you're more open to getting that, maybe that East Coast athlete or that Midwest athlete, as opposed to the Arizona, California, Nevada athlete?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and I think too, college baseball is going to drop to a 34-man roster. So being really strategic with how you fill those spots is going to be imperative to your success. But we have actually had multiple East Coast players. We've had players from Connecticut, New York, Midwest players. We've had players from Iowa. We've recruited the Minnesota area. We actually have not been able to land any of those Minnesota guys, but we will go wherever. If I think that a player is a good fit for the program and they can help us win, their geographic location, it doesn't really matter to me. Obviously, we love our local guys here too. I think Northern Nevada is a very underrated brand of baseball. We have access into Southern Nevada as well. So we'll go anywhere. We have 2 international players on our roster too. I think the international space is actually going to be a nice space for, programs of the profile like ours, because the NIL platform is a little bit different for an international player. So I think we can get access to really good players there. But at the end of the day, we have this unique location here in Nevada that, yes, we're a West Coast school, but we are not like oceanic West Coast.
Right.
Like, San Francisco is probably a 4-hour drive from here. But it's a very easy airport to get in and out of. And I think we're an attractive spot for an East Coast player or a player from the Midwest. But at the same time, some of those players that have grown up sort of on the ocean, they love the idea of going to Northern Nevada and kind of living up in altitude and experiencing like a true college town.
And you touched on this, and this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. The international component to college athletics, college baseball, particularly, whether we're talking about Canada, whether we're talking about Latin countries, Asian countries now. There's a lot of Japanese and Chinese athletes looking to come into the college world. Is that something that you see evolving moving forward? Meaning, do you think there'll be a greater interest from the international student with regard to the sport of baseball to come and play college baseball in the U.S.?
I definitely do. And as a matter of fact, so we have two international players on our team now. We have a player from Korea and we have a player from Japan. Um, it's so I think right now the international player is especially attractive to a program like ours, because the NIL space is much trickier to navigate for a international player because of the taxation.
Right.
So I think that a program like Nevada can get access to some of the best players in those countries. So I can tell you, we have a player on our team that is from Korea that 100% is good enough to play at a Power Four or a Goliath type school. Right? There's no question he could. But again, like I do think that the international space just opens up a unique pool of talent for us. So kind of like I said, with the portal. Those are probably supplementation things for us. Like, I don't think we're going to build our program internationally, but they can be great for certain supplementations. It's just a little bit trickier to go through the admissions process and go through the processes more so like paperwork wise to get those kids into school and eligible and so what. But, yes, it's a space that we can absolutely recruit from to supplement specific needs.
One of the questions I'm constantly asked by parents is, what can my, let's say, 2026, 2027 student athlete do in order to better prepare, to be a college student athlete? What type of recommendations, whether it be routine, daily time management, skill set development, what types of, information would you give or kind of allow parents to get some insight from a college coach's perspective on how to best prepare to be a college baseball player?
That's a great question. And I think every college program operates uniquely, so it's obviously got to be a fit. But I think a lot of families I see are pressured to spend a lot of money on services that will get their kid a scholarship. And it's just like, I hope this doesn't like lose me friends, but like, look, if a recruiting service says, "Hey, I got a kid for you," I'm going to watch the video, but like, it's my call, at the end of the day, like the kid's got to be a fit for our program. And I feel bad because I think these families like are experience almost like fear mongering that if you don't have a recruiting service or if you don't have an agent, you're not going to get opportunities. So where I would advise families, it would be a few things. Number one, if you have a trusted system for player development, like if you have a coach or if you have a strength coach or some type of system or platform that is predictive of you getting better at the sport, that's the most important investment you can make. I think secondarily, I very much understand that when freshmen come to campus, like they're not going to be totally ready for it, but I'm really attracted to freshmen that when I talk to the coaches in their lives and the people in their lives, they can speak to the players. Obviously his work ethic, but more importantly, like just the pride he takes in things. Let's talk about something as simple as like stretching or something as simple as playing catch. Like, could that kid maintain focus to do that at like a very high championship level? I think that's how you get really good at this. And I've been fortunate enough to have, been in pro ball, been in the major leagues. And I think that tends to be the separator is like, it's a player that has a love for the game where it's like, yeah, playing catch is an opportunity to get better. And they do it with a certain level of pride. So that's what I would say is like, if you're going to spend money on this, spend it on actually getting better at the sport. If a kid emails us with a video, like we're going to watch it. And I think I speak for most coaches. And it's like, well, if the kid's throwing strikes at 90 miles an hour in high school, like we're probably going to be interested, but because a recruiting platform says like, this kid is somebody you should look at, that doesn't do anything for me. And I'm like, dang, that family's out like probably $5,000 that they could have
More
invested
than that.
in development. Yeah.
So, and this is, you just hit my sweet spot, and I'm not going to go down the recruiting service road, but I do want to talk about the playing catch mode. And so, being around, I'll go to a game or two if my son happens to be, whether he's in trips or maybe spending some time in the show, and I'm watching how athletes play catch,
Mhm.
and I'm watching how consistently they play catch, and I watch their repetitions. So can you talk of just simply about the value of not wasted repetitions but competitive repetitions, meaning that you're able to teach the body the proper mechanics so it becomes more of a fluid reaction as opposed to trying to pull a rabbit out of your hat when you really need it.
Yeah, for sure. So when we play catch at Nevada, I look at it a couple ways. So we do a full arm care routine before we play catch. It's a non-negotiable. After we stretch, we do arm care. And then I would say, like, when they start playing catch and they're doing sort of like, I would say, getting the cobwebs out, like their shoulder turns and like their arm circles or whatever, I feel like the beginning of catch play is their time. You know what I mean? It's their time to like express themselves individually, to get themselves loose. But then our rule sort of here is like, hey, once you're out at about like 70, 80 feet, um, this is time to like become a better baseball player. And so I think, number one, the catch is an opportunity to become a better baseball player, because oftentimes we catch the ball in baseball and we have to redirect it. There's a component of footwork there, right? And then the throw is an opportunity to become a better baseball player. So I took this from our infield coordinator, Bob Missick is his name, when I was at the Brewers, and he's a brilliant coach. But basically, we've put our own twists on it, but every day has a theme. So it's alliteration. So it's mechanics Monday. So once you get out to that 70, 80 feet mark, the rest of your throwing program is about your mechanics. It's what you want to work on from a footwork perspective, what you want to work on from a throwing perspective. Tuesday is Turn It Tuesday. I don't care if it's our outfielders. I don't care if it's our infielders. We're working on some component of turning it, right? There's just a component of athleticism, simulating the central nervous system there that we like to blend in. Wrong foot Wednesday. So we basically are throwing on the run on Wednesdays, right? So like those are constraints you're going to face in the game. We're going to use so it's turf Thursday. So we play on a turf field. We play on a lot of turf fields in the Mountain West, and I think it's important to know how to use it. We like to use the ground. Like if our shortstop goes in the hole, oftentimes like we're going to throw that ball into the ground. So it's for the guy catching it. It's an opportunity to catch a non-ideal throw, and then it's also for the athlete or the thrower. It's an opportunity to use the ground to hit your target. Footwork Friday. So we're just specifically focusing on our feet. So when we're catching, for example, that could be the footwork of a middle infielder lining himself up as a cut guy, right? And then how we're going to transition our throw. But the emphasis is on the feet. And then situation Saturday. So on Saturdays, we could give them a situation and they're going to blend the mechanics of that situation in. But we look at the throwing program every day as almost like the batting practice for infielders, right? There's a component of like stroke development there. So I think by changing the theme every day, though, you do allow for like athleticism and expression of individuality. But like playing catch for us, it's not to warm up. Like the warm up happens before that. This is baseball practice. Like this is player development. It's an opportunity to get better at your craft as a thrower and a catcher. And, you have 9 opportunities a game to impact your team on defense. You probably have 3 or 4 on offense. So we take the catch play part super seriously. And honestly, like all those little details that I think people just kind of go through the motions, they're very important to us.
I mean, this is fascinating. Never thought we would go here, but this is so beneficial for athletes and parents to hear, because this is what I call the separation between just going out and playing games and then actually preparing to become a better athlete for not only high school, obviously college and potentially beyond. Want to cover, and I would really love for you to kind of talk about the lost art of situational hitting. And the reason why I bring this up is we see so many arguments and gadgets, and we talk about, all kinds of analytics and metrics. But at the end of the day, every pitch and every at bat is very unique based on game situation, game environment, weather elements, etc. So can you talk a little bit, because you come at this from a really unique perspective, when you talk about elevation and ball flight, but from a professional perspective, as a professional hitter, when you can throttle up and try to go yard, but you also know there are times where I got to kind of take a little off and kind of look backside, get on base, move the line, continuously move the line. Can you talk about that approach from high school or travel or whatever level to college, and why it's important to be a game situation aware hitter?
Absolutely. And I think I speak for every coach, every head coach, every major league manager. I think I speak for all of us when I say the metric that I am the most interested in is that when the game is over, we've touched home plate more than our opponents. You know what I mean? Like, that's ultimately what I care about. True. So, and it's funny, in the Mountain West, in college baseball, high school baseball is exactly the same. You're going to get involved in different types of games, right? Like, you're going to get involved. Our Friday guy last year was a stud. And when he pitched, like, we were involved in some, 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 type ball games. You're going to get involved at all levels in high scoring games where it's a heavyweight bout and you're kind of going punch for punch offensively. So I think it's important, like, that you can play sort of a spread offense where, like, think of it in football. Like, if we need to play smash mouth football in cold weather and we need to, like, give the ball to the fullback and get a yard, we've got to have the personnel and the training to be able to do that. If we need to run a 2-minute drill and go 80 yards down the field, we've got the quarterback and the line and the receivers to do that, right? So it's all important. And I think you hit it on the head, is like, I do get a lot of messages about recruits, and they'll send me peak exit velocity, peak distance, power metrics. And trust me, like, I love that stuff as much as anybody. A few of the teams I've coached over the years have been some of the better home run hitting teams in college baseball, and I'm proud of that. But at the same time, that strategy isn't always sustainable. Like, San Diego State's in our conference. Sometimes you cannot hit a ball out of that place, and like a fly ball, like a lofty fly ball, is probably an out, right? So being able to manufacture a run differently is totally important. So I understand the pressures that high school players face. Like, they're probably not going to send a video of them grounding out to the second baseman to move the runner over. And I get that, right? But when they're here on campus, like, there's got to be a certain level of humility and a certain level of acceptance of being a teammate that, like, in this environment, we're trying to score more than our opponents. And I have trained all the things necessary to allow us to do that. And if we can't, like, confidently answer that question, I don't think that we've prepared our players. So for the parents, for the players at the high school, the travel level, if you're asked to do that, that is a quality rep. You know what I mean? And I think right now it's maybe being viewed as like, this is a waste of my time. I don't agree with that. I think that's a quality rep.
I mean, for me, this is very enlightening. And I think if you're a parent watching or an athlete watching, I think there's a lot to be learned here. And one of the things I know I'm going to be asked is, are you more inclined to recruit the athlete at your camp, or are you going to randomly look at guys? Are you coming to the East Coast, i.e., PBR, futures, et cetera? How are athletes going to get on your radar that may not be geographically within your neighborhood?
Good question. I do think of a player as at one of our prospect camps. And if you go online, you can confirm this. Our prospect camps, they are not expensive. They are not a cash cow. They're a real recruiting opportunity. I think we have 4 players on our current roster that were prospect campers because, it's a day or two with our entire staff having eyes on you. Like, it's a fair shot to be seen. So I don't think there's anything better than that. I think the second thing is video. Like, video's super important. So if we are emailed or sent a video by a coach or a kid, we'll watch it. I think the quality of the video is important.
Can you expand on that? In other words, like the open side as a hitter, open side
Yeah.
as a pitcher. Do you want the pitcher from in front, behind? Do you want to be behind the catcher? Just so parents have an idea, because I see all this video
Yeah.
from 100 feet away, and I know we're
Right.
watching ESPN highlights here, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a great point. So obviously, like visibility is totally important. So like sometimes I'll get like mom or dad were like filming on the phone from the top of the stands, and the kid looks like an ant. Like I can't really do much with that. What I care about, and there's probably coaches that are different than me, but what I care about is ball flight, right? So like if the camera's set up behind the pitcher and I can see ball flight, that's really valuable. Just because I get a feel for like how does the ball come out of his hand? Does he show some like feel to locate it? And then from a hitting perspective, again, ball flight. So like my favorite view is sort of like almost like an umpire's view, if you will.
Amen. Yep.
Just because again, like I can kind of see the type of energy that comes off the player's bat. So that's a big deal to me. So more than anything, like I think again, there's probably services that are like, we're going to make you a great recruiting video if you give us like X number of dollars. Like we all have iPhones or some version of that where the camera is legit. I think that's great. The other tip I would say, if you're going to make a recruiting video with your phone, hold it sideways. So like, don't hold it vertically.
Right. Yep.
Because when I watch it on my computer, it'll cover my whole screen as opposed to like this vertical bar in the middle of my screen. So that's a little hack, is just like go landscape mode with your phone. But for me personally, it's ball flight. Because even if I see open side on the hitter, open side on a pitcher, if I have no context of where like the ball went, it's really hard for me to make a judgment call. Like there's players I've coached that if I saw him only open side, I'd be like, ooh, I don't really like his swing. But then like you see him hit and you're like, oh my God, this guy can really hit. So yeah, ball flight's important to me.
Well, parents, athletes, want to let you know anything to do with prospect camps, game schedules, everything and anything about University of Nevada, Wolfpack Baseball. It's on the Blue Book app. Create your profile. Make sure you, put all your social media content. You now know how to send a video off to coach, and make sure that when you download that, you create that profile, listen to all those video tips, because it's really good to add that type of a video from that perspective, as far as ball flight out of a pitcher's hand as well as off a bat as a hitter. Jake, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been phenomenal. And I'm really excited, not only about following Nevada baseball. I am going to be out at a Mountain West game this year. Not sure which one, but it's going to be one of yours, probably on the road at Air Force. I told Drew I would get out there in that neck of the woods to see one of their games. And I'm looking forward to catching up not only with you, but several other programs within the Mountain West. But best of luck in this season and beyond.
Thanks so much. It was an honor to be here. And best of luck to all of your players as they navigate a very tricky landscape in college baseball.
Parents, I'm going to have all the contact information for Nevada Wolfpack Baseball in the description for YouTube as well as the podcast. So anything to do with Wolfpack Baseball, contact information, recruiting information as far as prospect camps, we'll put that down below. Thanks again, Jake.
Thank you.